All right, this is part 2 of my modern architecture and NPSP presentation. We have covered so far that the system of record, and there's a call to action in there for people to do a better job of integrating all the data they have, but it's more than data acquisition. We also have to start normalizing it, and we also have to start verifying and cleaning it. We have to enrich it, and we have to learn how to archive it eventually. We have to be able to tell if the data set is still useful or what records of the data set still matter. There's systems of aggregation, which I prefer to promote to a separate layer, which involve extracting information from the systems of record and aggregating that one way or another. Then there's the integration layer, which is kind of where the real world meets. We convert systems of record data. We enhance systems of record data or aggregation. We, convert orders into fulfillment. We convert closures into contracts. We convert leads into contacts. We send out receipts. We send out messages, but we orchestrate internal processes, but it's mostly, anyway, that's the integration layer. Then there's the intelligence layer, which we have spent a long time, which has to do with how we present the aggregation, how we report on the aggregation, how we predict the elements, and I think there must be an explicit intelligent layer set of objects that we create based on analysis of the aggregation layer and potentially interaction with the integration layer as well. All right, so we've covered that, and there are elements of NPSP that work well with those layers. There are elements of True to the Core that work well with those. There are add-on products of Salesforce family members, and there are, of course, third parties that do all of these things. So now we're looking at what has been called the engagement layer. This has to do, sorry, let me get control of my tool here. This has to do with, there we go. What we decide to do with our constituent, I said customer here, but constituent. Are we onboarding a donor? Are we nurturing a retained donor? Are we reconnecting a lost donor? Are we onboarding a donor? Are we onboarding a subscriber? Are we noticing a subscriber who is lost and trying to reconnect with them? This is the engagement layer. The intelligent layer kind of decided what was going on, and now the engagement layer is what we're doing about it in some sense. NPSP added quietly last year something called the engagement plans, which I have overlooked until this point, and once again, it's something big that is making me confident that I can handle this now, now that I really understand how it fits into the architecture. An engagement plan is a template first that defines a standard set of steps. It is limited to the internal staff, although it could easily be that an internal staff is assigned to make something happen for our constituent. But it is, in fact, engagement plans are inherently limited to people who have Salesforce licenses. We can't assign tasks to people who don't have Salesforce licenses. We can use staff as proxy, but that's all we can do. An engagement plan template can be assigned to any object. It comes pre-configured for some standard objects, but we can add more of them. That sequence of tasks can have dependencies and can be tracked throughout. We don't have to create the task until a certain task has been done. We can reassign the schedule based on, well, we want that task not to happen until 7 days after the previous task. And all of that stuff is actually built into the engagement plan templating tool, which is very nice. We can assign the task manually with a button. We can assign the task, if we learn how, with Process Builder or a flow. And by virtue of how Mass Action Scheduler works, we can also obviously identify through list views or reports objects that need to be assigned a certain engagement plan, and then use Process Builder or Flow to assign it. So it's very exciting what we can do here. And by the way, we don't have to have any tasks at all. Engagement plans could be assigned solely for the sake of us of tracking and reporting that it has happened. So I'm very excited about engagement plan as being something we use now. It is reportable. You can create standard reports using engagement plan to record how many of any particular, how many donors have you onboarded, and how many of those plans are completed. Who has how many of those plans to complete, for example. So I'm very excited about that. There are two videos that I've pointed out as resources here to use to learn engagement plan. Engagement plan works with levels as well. If you're using the levels tool, which I presented as an intelligence or aggregate, as an aggregation tool, if you're using it as part of your aggregation tool, you also can automatically use levels to assign engagement plans. For example, if you would like, when someone becomes gold donor level, you can have a gold recognition engagement plan that is assigned automatically. The task can be assigned to particular people or to people related to that record as the owner, for example. So this is pretty exciting, I think. Other engagement options include creating your own custom objects to represent your intention. You can use campaigns to record your intention of engagement. And as I mentioned, you can add fields to the account or contact to represent the intention. I have listed these in that order because I think that's the order of preference. I think engagement, I'm not sure why you wouldn't use engagement plan, frankly, at this point, because it's an object that's standard, why not do it? Or semi-standard, why not do it? But if it's not suiting your need, you can create custom objects. If doing campaign suits your needs, that's great, do it. And if you can accept the limitations of adding the engagement as fields on the contactor account, then that's fine too. You also can use Marketing Cloud, Pardot, or other third-party tools to do these engagements. Marketing Cloud and Pardot have rich syntax and vocabulary about what we're doing with them. If you're interested in email only, you can use Campaign Monitor to capture the engagement plan that you plan for someone who's doing email only. So those are other options. The experience layer is the very top layer, and I call it the channel, the engagement layer. Let's talk about that. The experience layer is probably perhaps a good name for it. NPSP doesn't offer this per se, but let's look at what we can do in Salesforce. Campaigns tend to pretty much represent an email or print experience for our constituents, so we kind of are capturing that data and can report on it. Face-to-face interaction or engagement is representable by meetings, which are events in Salesforce, and we can report on those. Phone calls are easily represented by tasks or activities that are past tense or future for that matter, and the type phone call. So that's pretty easily represented. Emails are captured easily enough by activities and represented in Salesforce. So a lot of those experiences can be represented. You can capture and represent social media engagements. You can capture and represent phone calls automatically. What you do here really depends on your budget. I think a lot of nonprofits are doing this manually now, and at least my nonprofit is not doing a great job of representing it, but when I make it easy, we probably will. As uh, Lightning for Mobile tool comes out of beta, we may find that it's really easy to capture these things automatically on our cell phones. I think I said what I want to say about this, but the experience layer is challenging to track, and it in my opinion, it ends up looking a lot like the data layer at the end, actually. At the very bottom, it's transactional and automated if we do it well, and it ties into something that looks like the data layer, and we may even require something that looks like the aggregation layer to sort of make sense out of it, because there's a lot, when you're recording clicks or keystrokes on a web page, there's a lot of data there that's being captured, and you're going to need sort of some help in aggregating it and understanding how it relates back to the layer above it, which is I'm sorry, the layer below it, which is the engagement layer plan. You're going to have to sort of aggregate the experience layer onto the engagement layer in order to report and make sense out of it. And to some extent may actually tie back to the experience layer, but like many architectures, the highest layers are a little fuzzy. The lower layers tend to be most concrete. So we shall see how this evolves. All right. So we've covered this and talked about all these layers. I made more nebulous some of the higher layers on purpose in this chart. So I'm gonna summarize for what's next for me, and then I'm gonna ask some open-ended questions. For me, the next things I need to do at the data layer are itemize and look at external data sources that I have. We are currently caught flat-footed in terms of how we are syncing email from all staff into Salesforce. We're going to go back to Lightning Data Sync. I tried to use Einstein Activity Capture, and it disastrously let me down. It disastrously proved to me it's not trustworthy. So I'm sorry, but I have turned it off, and I'm going to step back to Lightning Data Sync instead. I need to look hard at how our external phone activities are synchronized into Salesforce. They are not currently. Our staff does not use the Lightning for Mobile capabilities to automatically capture phone call activity. I'm not capturing incoming phone call activity well, so we're going to do that. Likewise, same thing with text, and we now have a Twilio bot, which is kind of an application, and we're not capturing that, and we're gonna look at that database and figure out how to use it. We are going to use batch gift entry at our staff level, and we have to do some phone number normalization if we're going to make good use of all of this data. So we're going to start doing that. At the aggregate level, we have some formula fields that are classifying levels of activity, and we're going to change that to levels and let the NPSP level engine do that, primarily so that we can have history and so that we can automatically assign engagement plans based on changes in that. At the intelligence layer, we are going to do a ton of engagement plans. For donors, we're going to assign a first donation engagement plan that's mostly about enriching and looking towards recurrence. When somebody is a recurring donor, we're going to build a profile for them in our Salesforce system. And when someone lapses, we're going to assign some steps to nurture that to some staff members. Volunteers, we're going to assign steps when they're first onboarding, including checking that they've done proper orientation, enriching the data. When somebody's recurring, we're going to build a volunteer profile for them. And when they lapse, we're going to assign some nurturing steps to restore them. Subscribers, we're going to assign some drip campaigns when they're brand new. When they're non-opening, we're going to offer them some help. When they unsubscribe, if it seems legal to us, we're going to do some nurturing steps, meaning if they're unsubscribed but they're a donor, we're going to reach out to them, make sure it wasn't accidental. When someone broadly unsubscribes everything, we're going to, and they're a volunteer or a donor, we're going to reach out and say, are there particular elements you would like to retain? But we're going to do that in a legal way. And we're going to explore next best action at the intelligence layer. At the engagement layer, we're exploring email campaign tool, exploring portal. We are using more and more our app, which is exposed through phone, voice, and website to capture structured data. And we are playing with Salesforce surveys. It looks very nice to us. So that's what's next for us. What's next for you as you listen to this? At the data layer, do you need to improve your acquisition activities? Do you need to identify and begin to figure out how to leverage external databases, email, phone, social media, other standalone databases? Do you need to begin some normalization processes to keep your data clean? Do you need to begin some deduplication processes to connect the various records you might be creating for the same person or the same entity or account? At the aggregation level, do you need to better leverage NPSP rollups? Do you need to turn on the custom engine and tweak those definitions or add some more? Do you need rollup of other things for which you could use DLRS? Do you need classifications? Could the NPSP level engine work for you? Or do you need more complex classifications, in which case can you build reports or list views and then let Mass Action Scheduler assign the levels for you, so that you can then use that as automation for intelligence layer or experience layer. Do you need to invest in more reports and dashboards and expose them more often? At the integration level, do you need to use paths to better make better how you process your business thing? Do you need automation on conversion? There was a beautiful automation hour on how to take a signed contract, which is really a closed opportunity, and automatically create the hundreds of objects that this particular organization needed. Beautiful use of the integration layer. Do we need to adopt Service Cloud in the nonprofit to handle donor record inquiries, volunteer record inquiries, service project requests, requests for personal data from clients or donors as the law might apply? At the intelligence layer, do you need to think about engagement plans assigned manually or automatically assigned? Do you need to create campaigns and start assigning people to campaigns based on the aggregation layer automatically? At the experience layer, do you need an email tool? Do you need a multi-channel tool? Do you need apps or bots? Is this a manual thing? Are you faithfully capturing the manual steps? Are you using tasks to faithfully guide the manual steps? Do you need portals to create experiences that you can log and customize for people? These are some of the questions that come from the architecture. I really love this modern data architecture that Suchin Rankin has provided for us. I encourage you to think about it and think about how well you're following it. If you adopt this, Suchin suggests that we can create experiences at scale. He says this architecture has been used by hotels to create experiences top to bottom. He says it has been able, that this architecture has some proven ability to go places where people want to go at the very leading edge of 360 experience generation. So, and I think I believe it after seeing it and working to apply it a bit in my own org. So good luck. Would love to hear from you, and let's go places with our data and with our constituents and with our experiences. Have a great day. Bye.